an escalator slowly, ready to greet a room that you have no patience for. There's one who says you look like Tracy Chapman. There's another who says you are duplicitous, who says you can't repeat your name, who says the name is understood, who says the name is undone, who says the buildings are crumbling on the television screen in front of you, and just down the road, and just where you were, and just in the trap. Wall Street sauna, old men are piling against the steamers. This is the decline of something. You go to Leal, you walk across the
Belgians. William, the plastic surgeon, is bald and tall and wears a gingham shirt, and he's thick and full, like his lover Patrick, who is in finance, and is also thick and full like him, so it makes sense that they're a couple here at the porch bar. Repetition of fabrics and length and foreign bodies and foreign cocks in America. A man with a mustache is able to pull all of the men in the bar, and what to see out of the light is not clarity. But the pock face that fills the surface of the street you walk out into, and despite not knowing where to go, you are leading, or maybe you are led like them, all after this intuit dodging how to think of the split in time, place, and event. The blacks are in front of the Marc Jacobs store on Commercial Street. You would think, like their borrowed makeshift photographer thinks, that they want to be seen together. Instead, they are attracted to the distance that spreads between them, enough so that the name of the designer links them on the bench where one sign creates reality, two brothers hitched by class signage. I do hear an accent and feel resentful of their very presence and need some stability, and when Dallas asks to let them in, and even though I feel this resentment, I say they are more beautiful than anyone here in town. There is a bird that moves across the sky at an angle, much like the way that I swim against the current, pushing myself, swimming below the waves, and despite the back hurting, and despite the bruise that grows from the fall down the stairs, I'm ready to continue my kick below the torque of the way of the black men, the weight of them in the street, and the pack in a white town. The white girls that slip by have no idea that I paid close to $50 to get this seat, and I chose air instead of enclosure, but like Drake says, they know, they know, they know. With my fingers holding in the stitches, I thought about the Belgians. Not that I will ever see them again, but I want to call one Prince Patrick, and the other I want to call Lord William. They are so critical of black women's bodies, the shapes growing so wide, but they love Michelle, and their bodies are lean like barracks. Is that why I made the wrong turn? The space between sleep and disaster pulling me down the stairs, a kind of freedom. To be thinking in a house next to a sea. Who would have thought this would lead to a laceration, a tray of pizza, then the fall? What does one say and how does one feel? The slip between the act of encountering critique and the idea of reaching through the repulsion of the naming, like the black plastic bag that spins below the great jets that thunder outside of my Hilton. How dare I get so classed and pulled over for such speeds down a hill to get to you?
Distance yourself. You have to defend yourself. You have to, it says. The men are beautiful in their razors. Tasered on the block. The television is blacked out. It's fuzzy, it's hazy. There's nothing but a crane. Every day you turn and you see a crane. And you look at the sex.
This was in the morning.
Post-apocalyptic.
When I was watching a lot of TV right after the morning of September 11th, and I was just watching the TV all the time. And this is what I saw.
Is falling out. hold that realm, that resin of what it once was, what you were climbing up that hill.
They describe themselves as elite or above it all or something that they can't colloquialize. This is a position as tricky as the one they describe as so difficult to maintain in the gay world. They don't use that phrase, but like the bruise that grows hard on my hip, we both understand that they mean when they pass for straight around the world. In fact, we are linked by our shirts. Mine is reasonable, Ted Baker, not as cheap as I thought. I pulled alt for the hunt. I usually wear a J. Crew with the blue 4 tailored down the back, inseams to bring the body back into shape against that which I gorge. I bought this shirt near the growing Twin Towers, my encounter, what I want to say, leaning out of windows, breathing in the blast. You know, there were days where you could get a free air conditioner. There is soot, or a place where the body slips between class outside of buildings, and in the end, all I think of is what has changed in the erection of the towers that grow below me while I vacate.
See, 9/11, you're there. What are the consequences? Freedom, Operation Freedom. We will blow them away.
Enduring.
It was an explosive year. Remember Samia Bashir saying, recount the poem. It's only in the imagination to be stuck in the traffic. You're just moving slowly. The brakes lights should be
The brake lights.
Brakes lights should be enduring freedom. You're walking with Rory down somewhere in the East Village, no, the West Village, where you once lived. You got off of the subway. It's as though you're returning to the wound and you're singing, and you're looking at the posters, and you get as close as you can. She's turned on by the firemen. I'm turned on by all the paper, all the missing units. This isn't photo collage. There's no direct feeling, but when someone throws a backpack on the ground, everyone's ready to launch. It was the first plane ride that you took, and you landed at applause.
Laceration. Cree describes a series of men he met in Germany who all had black boyfriends that are all now dead. One jumped from a window, and when the survivors explained that they had to return to clean up the mess, Cree, like anyone else, at least like me, would ask, what was left to clean up? The answer became a punchline. He slit his wrist before he jumped. When I returned from the $138.47 cab ride from Hyannis to Provincetown after getting my fingers sewn back, ignoring the fact, or at least trying to ignore the fact, that I was not in a town car, I did not expect the pool of drying blood at the base of the stairs, the blood on the walls, the blood seeping from the washcloth, the slow rinse from red to clear, the blood on the faucet in the bathroom dried on the back of the plastic knobs, the streaks of blood on the switches, the faded splotches on the wall where I tried to clean up after my accident will remain. Climb up an escalator slowly, ready to greet a room that you have no patience for.
It says you can't repeat your name.
Have you gone so clear? You remember these
Who
things.
says the name is undone? Who says the
You tell them, don't wait outside. You tell them, don't go outside. You imagine planes bombing the city. You revert back to earthquake training. Get under a desk. Get under a table.
Old men are piling against the steamers. This is the decline of something. You go to Leal. You walk across the
You're
street.
walking with Rory down somewhere in the East Village, not the West Village where you once lived. You got off at the subway. It's as though you're returning to the wound and you're singing and you're looking at the posters and you get as close as you can. She's turned on by the firemen. I would run with my new laptop because I knew if I walked I'd be a target. Who would try to catch up? Sometimes I walk slower if I have nothing in my pocket. What is up? in some kind of cadence, scare. They feel so close. My hand is wrapped, but after the laceration, my sister asks me to write a story. I do not know where to begin. I don't know how to bring the self that I felt breaking down the stairwell, one surrounded by two foreign men, moments before on a bed. If this were 1,000 Ways to Die, the episode in which I would die might be called Pizza Party Parole. After a night where this Lothario picks up two Belgian daddies at the porch bar, you don't finish the story. Pus indicates infection. I have a rubber glove in my bag in the case that it rains. My laptop, even though I fell down the stairs, remained intact. What do I have to give? I tell him that I could fall in love with them both. I say I could fall in love with you, and you say I am complicated. When I see the Belgians at the bar the next night after I have fallen, after I have returned alive, I point at them as though we are on a sports team and they made a goal, or they are far away and I am pointing to some realm of some kind of knowing reserved for men. I was chasing something. I cannot get hard for these men, and I think it has to do with the way they do poppers and one leaks from his eyes. I slip my hand over them. I try to get him to somewhere else. This is before I have fallen, before I am stitched, before I am splinted. Thank you.